a Toyota Corolla, something that is quite reliable and easy to maintain, but you want to be able to battle the flood-ridden roads of Metro Manila, then why don't you try one of these? Here we have the 2021 Corolla Cross Hybrid. Then I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. Start from the front of the Corolla Cross. While most Toyotas aren't exactly known to be the most handsome looking on the exterior, I must say that the Corolla Cross looks a lot better than, well, its peers. Starting here, you have a really nice obsidian looking grille to it. The Toyota badge also has these like blue inlays or outlines to them, indication of this being a hybrid unit. And it's the same thing with your LED headlights. There also has this blue tint to it. I really like that. Down here you get LED fog lights and then more of these matte black finishes all across the bumper. Now from the side, you expect the Corolla Cross, given that it's bearing the Corolla name, to look very similar to a Corolla Altis, but really it doesn't. But what I like about it though is that it's not too tall, yet it still gives you ground clearance. Speaking of ground clearance though, Toyota gives you these matte black finishes on the wheel wells of the car. That way stone and rock won't chip your paint as it gets kicked up from your wheels. Now if you notice here, there are these like curves on the body lines on either sides of the car. What's cool about that is that there is a Corolla Cross logo here showing those exact curves in the body line. Finally, this car also comes with Michelin Primacy 4 tires, which is something that you really do not expect from a Toyota. Usually they just come with Toyo tires, but it's really nice to have it on this one. You get 18-inch rims as well for this trim package. At the back, I'm quite surprised that Toyota is willing to put in a bold looking design across this car. I mean, these lights look like they are quite crossed at you. They just look really pissed. And why is that so? I think that's because they saw that the Corolla emblem is not dead center. Even I get a little bit OC and crossed with that. Now at the back, there's really nothing else to point out except for more of that matte black finish down here. You got the hybrid badge, and as you open this one up, you have this boot that it's not exactly the biggest, but it's not bad. You also get split folding seats, 60/40. And if you open this one up, you do get a space saver spare tire. Under the hood of the Corolla Cross Hybrid, you have this 1.8-liter inline 4 engine producing 122 horsepower and 142 Nm of torque. It is quite odd that despite this having a hybrid powertrain, that this actually produces less power than the non-hybrid version, but I'll see later on in the drive how good that translates to a driving dynamic. Now another cool thing to note about this is that number one, since it is a hybrid, Toyota also put the same blue thing on the Toyota emblem. And one more thing, it is quite low down the car, so it does kind of look like a boxer engine. Inside the Corolla Cross, first to check the door thud. Sounds like a typical Toyota. It sounds kind of similar to a Corolla Altis. To start the car up. As you heard, it didn't really make a sound because it is a hybrid motor. Now let's turn on the AC. And as you can see, the AC still works despite there having no engine sound coming up. Anyway, now in here, the interior, it's really a mix of a regular Corolla and also some sort of premium material. So up top, they are scratchy plastic, but this part of the dash is the center lower part of the dash, including the sides of the door cards. They are soft touch. The steering wheel is also nice and leather padded. It's also adjustable, like tilt and telescoping. You have a 7-inch digital instrument cluster flanked by your usual gauges, but instead of having like a tachometer, what you get instead is this thing that says like power, eco, charge, and off. So it's everything in relation to your electric motor. To the center, you have an 8-inch touchscreen. Now this one, it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a far cry from older Toyotas. Below that, you get dual climate control. Even more below that, you get some sort of mood lighting, a place to put your phone, and a regular shifter, just like that. You also get EV mode to purely use electric power on this car for a couple of kilometers. You have your traction control button. Why not? You also have your drive mode selection that gives you like power, eco, and standard. You get 2 cup holders and a cubby, which doubles as an armrest and slides forward as well. The seats are quite comfortable. They are wrapped in nice leather. It's also perforated in the center. It's also 8-way power adjustable for the driver's side, at least for this hybrid variant. Here at the second row, check the door thud. Sounds a little bit better than the front. Now back here, the materials from the front, they do continue, thankfully, so you do get that soft touch up top, but you still get a couple of hard touch plastic down here. You get a odd looking cup holder by the side, but it is pretty big, so you can put even larger jugs over there. I really like that. The seats themselves, they are pretty nice. I like that it has a lot of thigh support. This is quite rare in, well, a lot of Japanese cars except for like Lexus has, but for this one, it stands out to be pretty good too. Now for your toys back here, you don't really have that much. You get your own armrest right here with 2 extra cup holders. You get your own air vents, and especially for this hybrid trim, you do get 2 2.1 ampere USB charging ports. What I don't like about this car though is that in the typical Toyota fashion, they decided to give you a map pocket on the passenger side but not for the driver's side. I mean, how much did they save on not giving you an extra pocket right there? Come on, Toyota. Now if you want to seat 3 people back here, actually, it's not bad. There is some sort of transmission tunnel, but it is not that high, so you can kind of put your feet in there. That is only if you have smaller feet. If not, the footwells on either side, they are adequately sized, so that's no problem. The car is also moderately wide, so that's fine. Headroom is also great while you're at it. I'd like to introduce Real Ryan, who is the owner of this Corolla Cross right here. You can subscribe to his channel. He does pretty amazing videos on cars and tips as well, so just check it out. I'll put his channel link down below in the description. So driving the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross. First impressions when you drive this is you'll be surprised at how similar it feels to a regular Corolla Altis. Sure, you do feel like you're sitting a bit taller, a bit higher, and that is a good thing because you do see a lot more out of it. But yeah, it still retains that same really comfortable driving feel. The steering is also really light. No matter if you put this car into like any of the modes, even if you put it into like its supposed power or sports mode, the steering feels very similar. Now, I'm not quite sure if this uses an electronic power steering or a hydraulic power steering. It still feels like it's a hydraulic power steering, and I do appreciate that because it gives you a slightly more direct feel of the road. Yes, there's a lot of power. You do feel like both the gasoline engine and the electric motor is working hand in hand. The word that Toyota used to use was like synergy. Hybrid synergy drive, and you can really feel that synergy in this car. Keep this car into its normal mode and it is quite comfortable. Put it into its power mode and it becomes quite responsive. It's not exactly a fast car, but if there's one thing I don't like about it is that as with most CVTs, there is that groan to it. There's that rather subtle rubber banding effect in this car. It's still not as bad as a particular Chinese car manufacturer's car, which I have driven a couple of while back. That was quite unpleasant. This one, it's not that bad, but yes, it is still a CVT and you still do feel it. When it comes to the acceleration, it is quite sprightly. I wouldn't say that it is powerful in any way, but it is adequate. It's not something to write home about. It's still not something like, of course, it is no Toyota 86 or a Supra, but it's not bad for an everyday car. This is more than adequate. Now, the non-hybrid variant of this car, it does have a little bit more power, but since this one has that hybrid power, which means you can get way more torque instantly from the get-go, it really makes this car quite responsive. Since you have a battery pack somewhere in the car and it's mounted quite low, it really does help with the cornering of the car, with the handling of the car. Plus the fact that this particular car, I noted earlier that it looks like it has a boxer engine because of how low the engine is mounted on the car. So this one, the handling is actually not bad for a tall car such as this. The body roll, especially if I like change lanes fast, it is still existent, but it's not too bad. It's way less than what you'd usually expect from a car this height. This car is a perfect city cruiser. Why do I say that? I think I say that because this car's NVH is just great. The NVH suppression. Well, noise number one, the 1.8 liter inline 4 engine, it still makes a typical 4-cylinder engine noises, but you don't really hear it quite often unless you are really flooring this car. Most of the time, you're just gonna hear the subtle sounds or lack thereof of the hybrid motor. When it comes to vibrations in this car, especially when it's in EV mode, you also don't get or feel any vibrations. Then, as mentioned earlier, the suspension in this car really contributes to a lack of harshness. If the Toyota Fortuner is one of Toyota's worst when it comes to harshness, I think that I would give the title of the best for the Toyota Corolla Cross. When it comes to the visibility of this car, you get so much quarter panels. So no matter how tight the corners, no matter how tight the streets that you are driving in, the Toyota Corolla Cross is just really easy to see out of. And don't forget, you also have a good commanding position of the road ahead of you. In terms of fuel economy, the Toyota Corolla Cross does around 23, or I've even heard some people getting like 24, almost 25 on the highway. But since it is a hybrid, it mainly excels on the city. And in the city, this car can return up to 15 kilometers per liter. Not bad at all. At 1.650 million pesos, the Toyota Corolla Cross finally boasts a couple of Toyota safety sense technologies, which include like blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, lane departure assist, and you finally also get front and back sensors for this car, and also a reverse camera with swiveling lines. So it is a far cry from most of the Toyotas that you used to get. However, if you're not exactly into the EV lifestyle or a hybrid lifestyle, if you're not really into those, you should definitely first check out its other cheaper competitors. But if you are someone who's into a car with great NVH, if the main selling point for a car in your opinion is NVH, then the Toyota Corolla Cross is something that you should seriously consider.